Hi, George Haas here. One of the things that I suggest you practice is metta as a concentration practice, and really what you're practicing is on the mind state of metta. So part of it is figuring out what actually is the mind state of metta so that you can track whether it's present or not. I was noticing this morning in my own practice that practicing for the revered group, teachers, mentors, benefactors, I often talk about it as practicing for the beloved. It's easy for the mind to move out of the true metta mind into, say, love, which is a little bit warmer, or admiration, or longing of some kind. All of those things are a different mind state. Metta, a Pali word that doesn't really have an English cognate, we often translate as loving kindness. But it's really the kindness aspect that we're trying to focus on. Indika Sayadaw describes the metta mind as always cool, always kind. And one of the things to track is whether there's warmth to it or heat to it. This could be a kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Not coming. Understanding that we often think perhaps of kindness as warmth, heat, and then to have the instruction that really what we're going for is a kind of coolness. Not equanimity, not that neutrality. In metta practice, we're always inclining the mind toward radiating metta, radiating kindness. But the coolness is the lack of desire, lack of craving for something, so that it's in some sense, also a practice of generosity, the radiating outward of loving kindness, not seeking something in return for doing that. So noticing as you work, particularly with this category of the revered person, whether or not the mind is in that coolness, that kindness. Noticing if love arises or admiration arises, that's a different quality of mind state. And seeing if you can pull back out of that admiration mind into the purely metta mind. Then moving onward to the other categories, we typically start with self. Sometimes people have difficulty generating the mind state of metta in self. Might be a kind of critical mind that arises instead, coming out of that over and over again into the true metta. Friends and family is another category that we typically work with. And so, again, in bringing those to mind, does anger arise, dosa, or does craving, lobha is the Pali word for that, craving for something in particular, maybe a response. Metta is this internal practice and then the radiating outward of the metta, but not an attempt of engagement, not of an attempt of an exchange that would come more from compassion practice, karuna. There may also be difficulty in family relationships, friendship relationships, complication. In the beginning, as we're developing our strength at practicing metta, we focus on people who are easy to work with, and in developing the capacity for metta, then we're able to move to people where our relationships with them is more complex, able to come into that true mind of metta, and noticing when the other mind states arise and being able to redirect the mind toward the true metta. So in my practice this morning, noticing that an intense experience of love was arising for the person that I was working with, and then looking for the coolness, the kindness of metta, and redirecting the mind out of the mind state of love, out of the mind state of admiration, both of which are quite pleasant. But if you notice tanha arising, tanha is the Pali word for the craving for sense pleasure. Often when the mind state of love arises, it's so pleasant there's a craving aspect to it. We want it to continue, we connect into it because of the way that it makes us feel. And then recognizing that that's happening and then redirecting the mind into the coolness of metta, into the coolness of kindness. Anyway, so as you do your practice, moving through the categories, the next one, neutral people. A neutral person is somebody that you don't feel strongly for or against. I often hear from students a description of even a few minutes with somebody might incline the mind to feel warmly toward them. But a better way to consider what a neutral person is how much of your time, energy, and resources are you willing to give to somebody, and if it's not much, then they remain in the neutral category. It's often difficult even to remember somebody who's in the neutral category because we have so little intention toward them. Memory is made by having a strong emotional component in part of the experience, and with neutral people often that's lacking, and so we don't remember them. So here the intention is to see them as you're engaging with them and radiating the metta toward them as a practice in life, so that you're open to the experience of being with them. But in the formal practice, we're really attempting to bring the mind state of metta as a preparation for the practice in life. And then the last category to work with on this concentrated way of working is difficult people. Often you'll notice dosa or anger arising in the thought of difficult people. And again, what we're attempting to do here is to notice that the mind state of anger has arisen and then redirect the mind toward this mind state of metta, of coolness, of kindness. Anger can sort of spin you out, take you away, so maybe it's more useful or a better way to practice working with the beloved or the revered category. Then what you're noticing is that the mind is heating up into love, into admiration. Might be easier to hold still then, recognizing that that's what's happening and redirecting the mind toward true metta. Thanks.